Hello. Is anybody there? I don't see any action in the chat yet. Let me know if this is coming through. I don't know if anybody's there. Usually there's a few people pop in the chat by now. Oh, here comes some people. Okay, good. Am I coming through? Can you hear me and see me? Good. Okay, so we'll just start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Okay, we're going on with looking at the Vissudhimagga as a kind of a reader's guide. Last week's stream we dealt with the Earth Kasina, and I think it was a bit of a rush, that one, because my internet was out in the afternoon, and it took me by surprise when it came back just before the stream. So I wasn't really prepared as well as I like to be. But anyway, things are looking better this week. So we're still dealing with the section on meditation in the Vissudhimagga, and it's quite it gets quite detailed in places. This chapter is actually quite short, and he begins the chapter by saying that he's not going to explain everything, just only that which is different from the Earth Kasina, like follow along in the instructions for the Earth Kasina. And he talks about the 10 Kasinas. The Kasinas are Kasina meditation is found in the canon, in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 27. There's a section on the 10 Kasinas. It doesn't go into a great deal of detail, as very often the most of the details come from the commentarial discussion, and particularly here in the Vissudhimagga. The idea of kasina meditation in general is you take a fixed object, and an actual physical external object, like a colored disc, and you use that as the focus for your meditation until you can visualize it, and then that becomes the nimitta for your meditation. And the advanced stage of the kasina meditation is when you extend the kasina to infinity, so that as it says in the Vissudhimagga, if you're dealing with the water kasina, then the whole universe seems like water to you, and same with the color kasina is red, and so on. So let's look at the specific kasinas. There are the elemental kasinas, and we discussed a little bit of earth kasina last week. There's besides earth kasina, there's water kasina, fire kasina, air kasina, and I think you could add to this the light kasina and the limited space kasina in this category. With the elements of earth, water, fire, and air, the proper nimitta is the actual element itself, rather than the physical object, which is a sign to induce the sense of the object. And it talks about how an advanced meditator, particularly one who has done development in previous lifetimes, can rouse the sign in the nimitta in the mind from any occurrence of the element. For example, seeing a body of water, a pond, or a lake can rouse the water kasina sign. So it's not the actual physical object, which is the real nimitta. It's only an aid or a way to get the meditation started, is to have an actual physical object. So it talks about the earth kasina making a disc out of clay or that is or other earth that's the color of the dawn. So I would imagine that means like a rosy pink color, and to make it as pure as possible. No discolorations or grit or lumps in it. Smooth it well. The water kasina, you would use a bowl, a plain bowl without decoration, filled with water. The fire kasina, Buddhaghosa makes a strong point about paying attention only to the flames, so not to the fuel or to the smoke, but only the flames. And he suggests making some kind of a screen with a hole in it to hide the wood or charcoal or whatever is the source. The air kasina is really, by the description here, it's really done with the sense of touch. So it's a little different than the other kasinas. One feels the movement of the wind. Or using the sense of sight, you can notice the wind in the trees or so on. So generally in Pali, when we talk about air, as in the four elements, it's more properly meant to mean wind. It's air in motion. The light kasina is, you can use a sunbeam coming in and shining against the wall, or an artificial light like a lamp, and be aware of the object being where the light strikes a neutral plain object like the wall. The limited space kasina, one uses a hole, he says here, a span and 4 fingers broad in a well-thatched hut or a piece of leather or in a rush mat and so on. Now, but someone with good merit can use any hole, such as a window opening or a keyhole. A word about the meaning of space in the Pali understanding. There was in early Buddhism, one of the points of contention was the nature of space. One of the early very important splits in Buddhist schools was between the Theravadas, who were then known as Vibhajyavadins, and the Sarvastivadins. And the primary doctrinal differences related to space and time. The distinction regarding time is more well known, but there was a distinction regarding space as well. The Sarvastivadins held that space is an unconditioned element, and you'll find this to this day in Tibetan teachings. The Tibetans take their Abhidhamma from the Sarvastivadins. Theravada held that the only element that is, or the only Dhamma that could be considered unconditioned is Nibbana. They kept it very pristine, and they didn't want to allow anything else to be unconditioned. So space was defined in Theravada terms as either conditioned or imaginary. A conditioned space would be like if you make a hole, you dig a hole in the ground, you've opened up a space. That's obviously conditioned. You conditioned it with your shovel. So that's a conditioned form of space. No way it can be called unconditioned. But space, as we moderns would generally think of it, as like the space between objects. That's entirely imaginary. The object each has a location, and we create a mental formation called space to account for the difference in their locations, but it has no real intrinsic meaning. So what we're talking about with the limited space kasina is obviously the conditioned form of space. There's a hole in a wall or in some pre-prepared object, that one pays attention to the space. It's actually a kind of interesting meditation to do in a kind of informal way, is to pay attention to the space, to do a sort of negative field view of things. You're in a room, generally you pay attention to the walls and the objects in the room, but the room is obviously defines a space, and you can just try and turn your mind to paying attention to the space in an area. Then we have colored kasinas, and the colors suggested for use are blue, yellow, red, and white. Let's say a word about, and these are done with making a disc of the appropriate color. Let's say a word or two about colors in Pali. Blue is nila, and it's a kind of mysterious that has never been explained properly. And in a lot of ancient languages, including Greek and Pali, there's no distinctive word for the color blue. Nila is also used for black. Any dark color is generally nila, and it's often translated in context. Here is context, it means obviously blue. There is a theory out there that the human being sometime in the Iron Age acquired a new evolutionary ability to perceive the higher frequencies of light, and before that they couldn't distinguish blue. I don't know if I'm not advocating that theory, I'm just putting it out there because it is a kind of a quirk of a lot of ancient languages. There's no clearly distinct word for blue. Red and white and yellow were kind of considered the main or primary colors. So there's some discussion of in here about how to construct a kasina for each of these, and then to extend the kasinas. And the end of the chapter, there is an interesting kind of summary of the kasinas and the psychic powers that can be developed if one has mastery of a kasina. For example, the water kasina is the basis for such powers as diving in and out of the earth, causing rain, storms, creating rivers and seas, making earth, rocks, and palaces quake. And each of the kasina has some kind of a power associated to it. Earth kasina, mastery of earth kasina can provide multiplication of bodies, or walking on water, because you have the mental perception of the water is earth, so it becomes earth for you. This is a kind of an interesting reflection on the nature of reality, that there's this idea that if the mental construct is strong enough, it actually alters the external reality. Reality as such is a kind of a two-way interaction between whatever is external and our perception of it. One that might have some real practical benefit is the white kasina, which one of its powers is banishing stiffness and torpor. Also, development of the divine eye, so you can see objects in other realms and so on. This idea of psychic powers coming through jhanic meditation, particularly kasina meditations, particularly associated with this, has perhaps its peak in the concept of the Buddha's twin miracle. You may have heard this mentioned that at least twice in his career, the Buddha performed the twin miracle to overawe the spectators. The twin miracle could only be performed by a Buddha. Not even the great disciples can do it. The twin miracle consists of the Buddha emitting fire from half his body and water from the other half. And the explanation is that he switches very rapidly between fire kasina and water kasina, and no one else can switch from one kasina to the other so rapidly as to make it appear simultaneous. So that's the chapter on kasinas. So next time we're going to discuss the formless meditation, or no, sorry, there's one in between, is foulness. The meditation, asubha meditation, which is meditation on corpses. So that can be maybe a little gruesome, but kind of maybe interesting for people. And then the next week after that, we'll do formless realms or meditations. So I'll stop there, and we'll take questions now if anything comes up in the chat. Not seeing anything yet. Hope I'm still coming through. YouTube keeps complaining about the quality of the stream. Okay. Looks like it's frozen. Okay, question. You previously mentioned that the form of meditation in Vissudhimagga is different from the Vissudhimagga. Could you elaborate? Yeah, when we get to Anapanasati, and I think that's the only area of real interest of difference. The two texts are actually pretty close. Somebody said I only heard 20 minutes on channel 4. Was that all from last week? I don't know what, oh, from chapter 4. Yeah, I guess it was probably, no, I went longer than 20 minutes. Maybe 20 minutes for the talk and then questions after. If mental construct is strong enough, would you please explain that again? Yeah. Um, how to approach this? There's different ways of looking at this. If any, first of all, kind of an analogy. I don't want you to take it too literally, but if anyone has seen the movie The Matrix, that reality was basically an artificial construction and the computer simulation. And if someone knew that, they could get inside the program and they could do supernormal things because they're not limited by the laws of mundane reality. Another way of looking at it, maybe another angle, which again I'm approaching this sort of from peripheral sides, so don't want to put too much reliance on it. But the idea in modern physics of the collapse of the wave function and the observer effect. Normally, this only operates on the very microscopic level, quantum level, but if it were possible to collapse the wave function on a macrocosmic level, then one could manipulate reality. And I think what it really boils down to is that reality as we define it, external reality, is not entirely independent of our mind. Now, there's a feedback loop between the external world and our mind and the constructions of our mind. And the external world is not as fixed and rigid as we would like to think. It's interesting as a kind of a parallel to this, and another parallel is in the Christian gospel story about Jesus walking on water, and then Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking towards Jesus over the water as well. But then he becomes frightened and he loses his faith, and he sinks in the water. So as long as he totally believed that he could walk on water, then he could. And then when he lost his faith, he couldn't. Okay, just get a better view of this. Is there anything about one is superior or better than other when it comes to kasina meditation, like focusing on the color is more inducive than that, something like that? I think it's really a question of a personal proclivity. You could either, if you could find someone who is a master of kasina meditation, they might be able to advise you on which kasina to use. But otherwise, if you want to do it, you just experiment with different kasinas until you find one that your mind easily enters into. Let's see. Oddly, I spent a fair bit of time today thinking about simulation theory in relation to Buddhism. The digital nature of Dhamma seems to also point to this. Only speculation, but interesting. Yes, yeah, it's quite of an interesting avenue of contemplation. What kasina would you recommend for those prone to defilement of sensual desire? If you're prone to sensual desire, probably kasina meditation is not really the ideal path. Next week, we're going to talk about a subha meditation, which is supposed to be the most powerful counter to sensual desire. But as far as kasinas go, if you're prone to sensuality, I would probably stay away from color casinas because you get kind of enamored by the beauty of the color. I would think maybe a earth or water casino, or perhaps limited space casino. Okay, if there doesn't seem to be a lot of questions this week. Um, I'll stay on for another couple of minutes, see if someone has comes up with something. Otherwise, we'll carry on next week. And if you do want to, and I would recommend, you get a copy of this book. It's available digitally. You can get a PDF for free if you search for it. Next week we're going to be doing chapter 6. You might want to have a look at that. Let's see, somebody come up with something here. Ajahn, I live in Siberia. Because of wood burning, sometimes I bake precepts. How does this handle the situation? You live in cold country. Yeah, well, I live in north of Ontario, so yeah, we we burn a lot of wood here. Um, there's actually no breaking a precept in burning wood. Um, I'm not sure what you think is a breach of precept in that. For bhikkhus, for monks, we're not allowed to cut living plants, but it's okay for lay people. So we buy logs here, and I'll chainsaw them and split them, and other people as well. But it's not really any breach of precept involved. Title, I'm not sure what are you referring to. It says title question mark. Oh, what is the book title, please? Okay, the book is the Pali name is Vissudhimagga, and it's been translated as Path of Purification. Path of Purification. And if you search for it, you'll find there is a PDF, and also you can buy a hard copy easily at a number of places, including Amazon. I chant mantras and a fair bit of spiritual growth from them. Is their use supported by the Pali Canon? Well, traditionally in Theravada countries, they mostly do a lot of chanting of recitation of paritas, which are protective chants taken from the suttas. They're not, they're different from what's generally considered mantras in that their mantras tend to be just fairly short, maybe a dozen syllables. These are like a page long or so. Also in Thailand, it's very common. This isn't really from the Pali Canon, but it's very common for the monks to use the two-syllable mantra Budo with the breath. Bu on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath. That's a very traditional Thai forest practice. Okay, so I think I'll stop there, and we'll meet again this time next week. And thank you all for coming.